Hey everybody, welcome to In the Red Zone. Sean Brown, Michael Johnson here with you, and we are into week 4 for college football. Sean, your takeaway for week 3?
Man, I don't know. There's so many teams that there's not a team out there that looks unbeatable, I'll say.
Yeah.
There's some teams that have a really good defense, really good offense, but there's not just a team out there that just stands out. I mean, week 1, week 2, we said it was Alabama and Georgia. Mm-hmm. That has since changed. I mean, Florida's a good team. Mm-hmm. I probably should give them a little bit more credit than I do, because it's different. This year's different from last. I mean, players are seeded into roles now. That does a lot for one's mentality when going into games, rather than being a backup. That's kind of how I was thinking of Florida. So maybe a little unfairly, so I apologize for that. But, man, what a week. I would say out of the contenders, Clemson probably had the worst out because they were 29-point favorites, and they tried everything they could at the end of that game to give it away.
They had no offense.
Yeah,
no offense.
It looked like they even on defense, they were trying to just give that game away. And then, sure enough, Georgia Tech gets a recovered onside kick, and you just think, oh my goodness, there just wasn't enough time. I mean, you give Georgia Tech 2 more minutes, who knows? But that's not really the name of the game. You get the time that you're given, and they just couldn't make it work. But some crazy, crazy finishes.
Well, listen, Ohio State, the final score of 41-20, and if you didn't watch the game,
that was
you
not
saw the box score.
It
was 28-20 down to the very end.
Yeah,
and just
a pick six.
Some things happened, like Tulsa's just trying to score and tie it up, and some things happen, and next thing you know, the Buckeyes score a bunch of points. But no, Tulsa was really good. They hung in there, had every chance to win that game.
Yeah.
And Ohio State looks like dog poo right now. They just don't look very good. They have no defense whatsoever. Yeah. I mean, it is sad.
Did you get a chance to see the end of the what game?
SMU game? No, I did not.
Was it SMU?
But I was told, where Mordecai threw.
Batted the ball. The dude comes in and just swipes at the ball, and it launches right into like a tight end's hands and catches it.
Sometimes you got to get lucky.
I know, man.
And then the interception in the OU game, probably the best interception I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, there's a lot. It seems like OU fans are split down the middle on this one because some say, yes, that was an amazing play. You go, you make the play whenever you can. Lincoln Riley even came out and said he almost challenged it because he wanted to have. It was fourth. Yeah. It was 4th down, and you're normally taught to bat that ball down. But I will say the ball was high. Maybe he tries to swat it and it goes off his fingertips, and then a Nebraska guy catches the ball.
I don't know how you can. I mean, I get it from a strategic standpoint, but you can't tell a defender not to intercept the ball. Come on,
It was probably, since I've been an OU fan, the greatest interception I've seen from the Sooners. Yeah. And that goes back to 97.
Yeah.
I mean, that was when I really started.
The fact that it's an interception, because that would have been a heck of just a catch.
Yeah.
I mean, and for a defender, because normally your DBs don't have the hands your wide receivers have.
Right.
So
CeeDee Lamb was...
Wow.
CeeDee Lamb was always making catches like that, and to see a defender, which a lot of these guys played wide receiver in high school, other positions, but it's, when you start becoming one thing, it's even more impressive just to see a catch like that. Yeah. Some injury news. I know Dylan Gabriel, I think, broke his clavicle, so he will be out. And then there was another quarterback I texted you about, said was going to be out 6 to 7 weeks. Who was that? Hold on. We had several texts back and forth yesterday.
Well, while you're pulling that up, one other thing I want to mention was just the Memphis-Ole Miss game, Memphis-Mississippi State game.
Yeah.
I mean, man, right there towards the end of the game, and it's Mississippi State up by 3, and they were a 3-point favorite, and just in the blink of an eye, it goes from 17 to 14 to 28-17.
Yeah.
Like in the blink of an eye. I mean, it is just crazy when things like that happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just say, you had what were you, 11-9 this week?
I was 11-9.
Yeah, and
not bad, but I'd like to be better.
I was
obviously.
7-13, so that was terrible. I mean, it's just OU
That
doesn't
was
cover,
my week
Ohio
2.
State doesn't cover.
Week 2 for me was terrible.
Yeah. Maryland didn't cover. It was just, I did get the Fresno State UCLA game right, but Cincinnati won. They covered, but it was just, I don't know. I go back to what I said from the very beginning. It's why I said I didn't want to put any money on actual games this year, because it's just you can't tell.
I'm starting to think maybe NIL is
I really believe that
starting to become so many teams just had issues this week.
And they've had since week 1.
And here's the
having
thing.
problems.
Here's the thing. You see the talent. Like you watch Alabama, you see the talent that they have. Those guys are more powerful. They're faster. But then you start seeing some mistakes, that just typically aren't there for teams that are supposedly coached really well. And I'm not saying that of Alabama, but just across the board. It's just.
It's the X factor that we don't have any insight into. You don't know. So some players are making money, but most of the players are not.
Right.
And there's animosity and there's jealousy in the locker rooms. There's guys having to do local commercials, having to go to nightclubs and make appearances. And they got to do that while they're going to school and while they're practicing. Yeah. You can't focus 100% on football when you've got all these obligations to make money. You just can't.
I will say the one, and just because I pay so closely attention to OU, something comes out a day or two before the Nebraska game that Spencer Rattler is now getting to drive 2 brand new cars from Fowler Toyota or whatever in Norman. So it's like, how much of this does, because he went out and took a picture, did probably sign some autographs, and it's just crazy. A lot of these kids are going to be doing nightclub appearances and going on talk shows. And
there's going to be people that are going to comment and they're going to hate on, like, you just don't want these kids making money. That's not it at all. But I'm telling you, that it is having a factor on the game this year. Absolutely.
I don't care whether they make money or not, but
I don't either.
But to say that it doesn't play a part into it is just being a little obtuse,
so
I think.
Just real quick before we get into the picks, to me, it's just this first year. There's no rules. They can do whatever they want. And I really believe that college football, NCAA, somebody has to step in, and I'm not saying take away them making money, but just a couple of things you could do.
Yeah.
You can't do any NIL obligations after 7 p.m. You can't do any NIL obligations during the season.
Yeah.
Do it in the off season. That's where you go do your commercials.
Well, the season is
and your
when
appearances.
People are.
I get that, but
that would be a tough deal, just because
that's
season is when people are focused on that sport.
But they can shoot all those commercials during the summer.
Yeah.
That's what Baker Mayfield
and
does.
then release them. That's
release
true.
them during football season.
That's true.
But during the season, no autographs, no appearances, nothing during the season.
Yeah.
And I think college coaches would love that as well. Get the focus back on football.
I've seen it. I've seen the Nick Sabans, the Lincoln Rileys come out before when NIL actually was announced, and of course, all those coaches are saying the right things. They're saying no individual is going to put NIL above the team and stuff. But it's just like, how can you really? You're not with these players 24/7.
Exactly.
And now they've basically got agents or managers that kind of manage the appearances and the events and stuff. So it's just getting crazy.
Well, hey, one last thing before we get started on the picks. The picks are coming up next. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed. Like the video, smash it, and just remember, we do this for entertainment purposes. We're not professional gamblers, so we just hope you enjoy the content and enjoy watching. We've done pretty good first 4 years, but man, I have been terrible. So this week, you know what? I'm going back to what I used to do.
He's going with his favorite mascots from each team.
Who's got the best uniforms?
Which color he likes best.
No, so I'm going on the eye test. I tried to watch a lot of games this weekend. I caught up on some teams that I hadn't got to see in person, like visually yet. So that's what I'm going with. I'm throwing out all the stats and everything else. I'm just going on what I've seen, and that's what I'm going to do with my picks, and I'm going to see how I do this week and see if we can change it up a little bit. So Week 4 picks. Let's start out Akron at Ohio State. Ohio State is a 49-point favorite. Shaun, what do you think?
This was one we talked about before filming. I don't know, but I do know that Akron is not on the same universe. I mean, they're just as Ohio State. Talent-wise, there's a lot of kids from Akron who grew up wanting to go to Ohio State, but for whatever reason, grades, size, speed, things that you can't coach. Just are some of the reasons why they weren't able to go to Ohio State. Ohio State just is not doing great. I mean, they get the loss, and then they struggle mightily with Tulsa. Now, I don't even know that Akron is as good as Tulsa. Tulsa does have a good defense. They had a quarterback that was slinging the ball pretty okay. And then they had some skill players who were really good. I mean, looked like they should be somewhere else other than Tulsa. No offense to Tulsa. But you got to remember, Philip Montgomery's there. Yeah. He was at Baylor calling the plays when RG3 was the quarterback.
Yep. And hats off to his son who got his first touchdown against the Buckeyes. Did you see that?
Yeah. So they're coached really, really well. I mean, you could tell they were composed even towards the later stages of the game. They were really composed, poised. Everything you want to see in a good, well-coached game. And so a team like Ohio State, you walk in there and you just think we're going to get the win, and then you put up a fight for 4 quarters. So, but I will say, Ohio State, they're playing at home. They get Akron at home at 6:30. They're going to be pissed. I mean, they're just going to come out.
Well, I thought they would be after the Oregon loss, and it didn't seem that way.
I mean, when you almost get beat by Tulsa,
and the offense was misfiring. The defense would be better off staying in the locker room. They'd probably stop them better without a defense.
Just go watch. If you didn't watch that game, just go watch the fourth quarter because you will see why that score ended up being 41-20 at the end. It wasn't like that. At all. I mean,
there was three consecutive series where I think Tulsa scored because Ohio State just couldn't stop them.
Yeah,
they could not stop them at all.
But in like the last 2 minutes of the game, things just happened to go Ohio State's way. Yeah, they got a pick 6, I believe.
Helps that they were at home.
So. Right, and so they ended up turning it around and winning by 20 points. But, man, it didn't look like it was going to end that way for a while.
No,
so that's why if you're looking at the score, and then wondering why we're talking like this, just go watch the fourth quarter, or late third.
And I really hate to say this as an Ohio State fan, but there was at one point I was so sick to my stomach watching them play that I was thinking, I was like, you know what, maybe they need to lose to Tulsa. Maybe they'll have a come to Jesus moment if they lose to Tulsa. And they didn't lose to Tulsa, but, I mean, that team has got to figure something out. They have got to come together. They need some senior leadership to step up and take the reins.
Their defense is just not great.
Not good. Not good at all. All right, you ready for some picks? Yeah.
So I'm gonna take Ohio State in this. I think that this is the week they kind of turn things around. They let loose, and it's a 6:30 game. They're going to be under lights. You got to hope that they have some leadership in there that's able to just kind of pull everyone together. And it looks like Ohio State has some of the same problems that OU has. It's crazy that a lot of these contenders are kind of, and the contenders are obviously the ones you see every year at the top. So
there is a possibility. Ryan Day mentioned in one of his press conferences with local media about they can't be worried about hurt feelings, and there may be a change in play callers. I really think he's going to shake things up on defense, and Kerry Combs may not be calling defensive plays next week. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to take Ohio State again to cover 49. If they can't cover against Akron, I'm not picking them the rest of the year because I will have no faith in them if they can't cover that.
Yeah.
Next game is Kansas State at Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is an 8-point favorite. Kansas State ranked 25th in the latest AP poll that came out.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I felt like Skylar Thompson was like the team goes as he goes. Yeah. And
looks like that might not be the case.
Right.
So,
I
picked against Oklahoma State. I thought they would beat or that they would get beat by Boise State. That was a heck of a game. I stayed up for that one.
Boise State got screwed at the end of that game.
Yeah.
That fumble play shouldn't have been blown dead.
Right. Right. They
You let the play go on there.
Right.
It's that late in the game. You let the play go on there, and then you review it.
That's what I believe.
Don't just blow
Yep.
any fumble. I don't think any fumble should be blown dead.
Right. I'm 100%.
You let that play out until a player is down on the ground with the ball or across sideline or end zone.
I agree.
I mean, that is ridiculous that they blew that play dead, even though Boise State picked up the ball. And it's not like I was rooting for Boise State to win. I picked them, but I still like Oklahoma State. I just don't think they're very good this year. Yeah. I thought that Boise State would win and cover, and they did not.
Well,
they got screwed on that.
Boise State's win percentage at home since 2000 is .957. 95.7%.
I think it's the best. I think it's the best home since a certain point. It's the best home winning percentage in the country. Yeah,
since 2000. So it's hard to say that they're going to lose a game at home because they just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's through multiple coaches over the years. So, but you're right. They got screwed out of that game. But a loss is a loss. It is what it is. Oklahoma State survives. I don't like Oklahoma State being an 8-point favorite. I think anything more than 6 was too much here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take Kansas State.
Yeah, I'm taking Kansas State as well. Just looking at, they went against Carson Strong in Nevada this last week, 138-17. They beat Stanford in week 1, and then they beat Southern Illinois. So really, they haven't been that, that challenged. Oklahoma State beat Tulsa 28-23. They went up against Missouri State and beat them 23-16. That was the first game where we kind of started to think maybe Oklahoma State isn't as good as we thought they were going to be this year. And then obviously winning 21-20 against at Boise State. I mean, hey, great win for them. Yeah. It was this close to being a loss, but a win's a win, like we say.
It is. We're 3-0,
So, but anyway, I mean, I think Kansas State's defense is better than Oklahoma State, and I think that they will give them enough.
And I'm not saying Oklahoma State loses the game. I just think 8.
I think it's close. Yeah. It'll
could be a 3-point game.
Right. So 8 points to me is just too much in this conference opener. Neither one of them have played a conference game. So I'll take Kansas State. And I know it's at Oklahoma State, but Kansas State can be a good away team. I'd like to see their record on away games. I'll look into that for next week, but I like Kansas State.
Next game is Colorado State at Iowa. Iowa's a 23-point favorite. Iowa won by 23 last week. They covered by 1 point.
Yeah.
So did I say Iowa State? I meant Iowa. If I said Iowa State, I apologize. Colorado State at Iowa.
I think you said Iowa.
I like them to cover 23 at home because it's at home. I saw a little bit of Colorado State, and I don't think they're a very good football team.
Yeah, they're usually not. I mean, they're giving up more points than they're scoring. Usually that's pretty indicative of where you're at. Iowa's scoring 30. They're only giving up 10. They're only giving up 81 yards rushing on the ground.
They have one of the top 3 defenses in the country.
So the most they've given up was 17 to Iowa State, and that was a rivalry game.
Right.
Colorado State, they started the year with 2 losses, one to San Diego State, one to Vanderbilt, and then they just beat Toledo 22-6. But I don't think that Iowa has an issue with Colorado State here.
Okay. The one I skipped accidentally. West Virginia at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 15.5-point favorite at home. Guys, I just, no offense to you, Shaun, I know it's Oklahoma's not as good as I expected them to be. I don't think they're anything. They don't. I don't think they have the high-powered offense that everybody expects. They certainly have the recruits, and they have the star power, and they have the weapons, but it's not coming together for whatever reason.
Yeah.
The way I expect, and the defense isn't as good as I expected it to be either.
Yeah.
So I still think they're a good football team. Right now they're ranked 4th in the AP. I think that's a little high. I think they should be bumped down to maybe 6. I think Penn State is probably better than them right now. Iowa's probably better than them right now, but it is what it is. As far as this goes, 15.5 for me is too much. I like West Virginia to cover the points. Not win the game, but I like West Virginia to cover the points.
I cannot disagree with you on any of that.
Okay.
I just, yeah, man, first things first, I'm not just rose-colored glasses. If I see problems in the team that I like, I'm going to call them out. I don't know what's going on with Spencer Rattler. I do not understand it. I thought he would make a jump from last year. And yeah, we don't like to really pick on kids, but and it doesn't all fall on his feet. I mean, you saw running backs completely missing their blocking assignments on play action. Play action only works if the running back can block.
Right.
And so there were plenty of plays where miscommunication, the wide receiver's running the wrong route, or the running back is not blocking, or Spencer is just backpedaling. He's not comfortable in the pocket. So it's just a collection of things that you thought. Now, beginning of the year or in the spring, you thought you had Trajan Bridges, you thought you had Seth McGowan, you thought you had Mikey Henderson. Mm-hmm. Then the season starts, you thought you'd have Theo Weiss. I mean, they've just lost piece after piece after piece. I do like that their offensive line is playing a lot better than what they showed in the first two games, or first game, and I mean, there was really nothing in that Western Carolina game, but defensive line is also playing really well. I'd like to see their defensive ends tackle better, kind of missing on some tackles there, but usually by about that time, second guy linebackers are already up there. So front seven for the defense, they get at least a B for me up until this point. Secondary needs a lot of work. I mean, they benefit from a good pass rush, but they're just not playing up to what we have seen talked about over the last couple of years.
They're not playing to their talent.
Right.
They're not.
Right. You see things in certain defensive backs that just, there's no way they're being taught to play this way.
Right.
Like, no technique whatsoever. So it baffles my mind. Like, I'm taking West Virginia in the points this week because I don't know that OU can fix it that quickly.
Yeah.
I think they get the win, but maybe a 7-point win or 10-point win.
I'm thinking
I don't
like
see
6.
15. Yeah.
Right.
I do not see 15. No matter how good West Virginia is. I mean, we've seen them struggle with Tulane. We saw them struggle with Nebraska, which Nebraska, a little bit better than I thought they'd be. Defensively.
Yeah.
And their quarterback's good. Adrian Martinez is a decent quarterback. Makes too many mistakes, but he's talented enough to kind of, make you work for it.
Yeah.
Their offensive line was okay. I did think that the defensive line for Oklahoma got the better of them. But at times they looked like a cohesive unit. They had a couple of skill players, but they get a couple more really good players in that offense, and they're a decent team. I mean, I don't think you fire Scott Frost right away. I think you just kind of let him play out the season, and if it all collapses, then sure. But right now, they're on the cusp. I mean, they're kind of like the Cowboys. They just seem like they're the Dallas Cowboys. They're almost good.
Almost good.
Almost good. But yeah, I can't see Oklahoma just, especially in this conference opener. I don't see them just going out, and maybe I'll be wrong and they skull drag West Virginia, but at this point I don't see it. I don't know that they fixed their, and I think it's mostly mental. So it is problems that can be fixed.
Yeah.
But is the team, better off with Caleb Williams? I'm not saying play him, but do they like him more than they like Spencer Rattler? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if the locker room is a mess.
NIL could be.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I will say that, look, if Rattler can't kick it into gear within this next game or so, I think you need to give Caleb Williams a chance with the ones, and let's just see what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Give him a chance.
Maybe at some point, but I mean, you cannot let 2 losses go by and then sit him.
Right.
I mean, you got to start identifying that he's got issues right now, that he's not playing up to OU standards, because 23 points just doesn't cut it in the Big 12. It just doesn't. And you're going to get every single, since you're leaving for the SEC, OU is going to get the best shot from every single team from here on out. Not only are they heading to the SEC, but they've been the best team in the Big 12 for the last however many years, since 2014. So every week is going to be a challenge. It just
and they got that Red River Shootout looming.
Yeah.
So,
Which that might be the easiest test as far as the fans go, because nobody's pissed at them from the other fan base. But man, they've got to get some stuff ironed out, and if they don't, then maybe you shake things up, and this is the point where Lincoln's got to earn his paycheck and say,
I think that soon they're looking at one loss for sure, and maybe
totally.
even two
If they keep going with the problems they have, and not fixing it, it blows my mind that safeties who are under Alex Grinch. Alex Grinch brings in this mentality, this culture, this defense that's supposed to be just balls to the wall. If you make a mistake, you're going 110%. But his own position group is what is kind of just not doing well. It's crazy to me.
You can sell out and go 110%, but you still got to know your assignments, and you still got to have technique. You can't just throw 11 guys on the field and say, just fly the ball. That doesn't work in college. That works maybe in high school, but you got to know your assignments. You got to know your coverages. And they don't right now. So
there's play calling. There's individuals that are acting as individuals, but. Yes, so I can't pick. I cannot pick OU this week. I just can't until they start showing me that they're playing good as a team. It's just crazy to me the amount of years that since Baker Mayfield took over, that at that Tennessee game is where they really started to be cohesive. And even though their defense wasn't good, their offense still kept them in games. They started playing cohesive football as a team. And now their offense is just, it looks like a bunch of me's out there, not me, but me, individuals playing. And they got to start becoming a team really, really quick.
Okay, next game.
And that's all I got to say on that matter.
That's it. That was short. Iowa State, 6-point favorite at Baylor. Iowa State, I know they lost to Iowa.
Hold on, we skipped.
No, we didn't.
You put Villanova, Penn State. Oh, we got rid of that one.
Got rid of that because there was no spread for Villanova,
Sorry.
Penn State. Yep, we were going to pick Villanova, Penn State. No spread at this point.
Penn State.
So anyway, Iowa State, 6-point favorite at Baylor. Iowa State's one loss was to Iowa. However, they've just kind of been like this lunch pail team that barely getting by. They beat UNLV last week, right? That was a pretty easy one for them.
But
I don't know. Something tells me that Baylor's going to maybe pull an upset here.
Well, Baylor hasn't really been tested yet.
Right.
They played Texas State, and then they played Texas Southern, and then they played Kansas.
It's going to be a different type of game plan, Iowa State. For Baylor. But it is home for Baylor, so I mean.
Yeah, this is one you can't really look at stats, and I know Iowa State brought back so many players. Their defense is really good, but their offense is just stagnant. Looking at that, Brock Purdy, 625 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, compared to Jerry Bohannon from Baylor, 664 yards, 5 touchdowns. And what's the spread on this?
6 for Iowa State.
Breece Hall, 60 carries for 238 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then Baylor's got a running back, Abram Smith, 47 carries, 366 yards, and 5 touchdowns. Again, the competition's been a lot different. I'm going to take Iowa State only because, they had the tough game against Iowa where they lost. So they've been in it, it's a 2:30 game, so not going to be that crazy. Baylor does have a good student section. I love watching the students all run out on the field before the game, but I think Iowa State goes in and steals it for 7.
I'm going to go against you on this one and take Baylor in the points. I don't know if Baylor wins, but Baylor's a little bit of an unknown because they haven't played anybody good. So they could be a very good team. We just don't know it yet. I like the fact that they're home. And just with Iowa State struggling a little bit on offense, I don't know. My gut tells me Baylor. That doesn't mean anything. Since I'm picking Baylor, that probably means Iowa State blows them out. But I'll take Baylor in the points this week. I'll stick with the Bears and see if they.
What do you like more, Bears or Cyclones?
I like Cyclones better, but I'm going to go with the Bears.
You're a news guy. You gotta like weather related.
All right, so next game, Nebraska's at Michigan State. Michigan State a 3.5-point favorite. Michigan State goes in and beats Miami, which I knew they would.
Yeah.
Miami's just, Miami's the new Tennessee, the dumpster fire of college football, kind of. But back to this game, Nebraska played pretty good against OU. Their defense played pretty good. Their offense still lots of mistakes, tons of mistakes. Mm-hmm. Michigan State has a really good defense. They actually have, just that lunch pail, go to work, let's knock them in the mouth, run the ball kind of offense. And I think Michigan State wins the game. I think that's why they're a favorite. I'm going to take them to cover the 3.5.
Yeah.
At home. If it was at Nebraska, I would take Nebraska in this. But
Michigan State beats Miami, who's not great.
I think they beat Indiana in week 1.
No, they beat Northwestern.
Right.
And then they played Youngstown State, beat them 42-14. Nebraska is better than what I think a lot of people are giving them credit for. There is something to be said for losing culture. I mean, look at Kansas. Mm-hmm. Kansas was good back in 2008 when they had Mark Mangino, and then they kind of ran him out. Mm-hmm. And then they just adopted a losing culture. I mean, I think that's where Nebraska is right now. But playing Oklahoma so close had to have given them just so much confidence, They didn't just get blown out where they just go back into the locker room and say, well, here we go again. Here's another, huge blowout. I mean, they could have won that game. They really could have.
Yeah.
Things just didn't fall their way, but they played a heck of a game. I mean, they really did. They looked like the tougher team for parts in that game. They looked more physical. They've got a good defense. I don't know much about Michigan State other than
Michigan State actually got a big. I didn't realize this until last week when I watched some of the Miami game. Michigan State got a huge influx of a whole bunch of transfers over the summer.
Yeah,
which is why why I think they weren't as bad as I thought they might be to begin the season.
You know what? We've got it at 3.5. It's since moved to 4, but we don't use that.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch my pick here and go with Michigan State. It's at Michigan State. This is 2 road games in a row for Nebraska.
Yeah.
It's not that many points that we're picking at. If it were bigger, then I would go with Nebraska to cover, but 3.5 just isn't a whole lot.
Okay.
I like Nebraska to keep it close and actually to keep a lot of their games close and maybe win a couple of that. Maybe they shouldn't.
I mean, you look at their schedule, and I don't know where those wins are going to come from. But
I know that's why I'm saying maybe they get a couple that you would think maybe they shouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, it just takes a couple of those to start that.
Yeah.
That how did we win this game? Well, here's how.
Yeah.
They don't have that right now. Right. So, but I'll switch it and take Michigan State.
Okay. Next one, SMU at TCU. TCU a 10.5-point favorite. This is the Big D rivalry, crosstown rivalry in Dallas. You have SMU on the east side of town, central east side, TCU on the west side, Fort Worth. SMU has kind of been surviving here of late. They survived against Louisiana Tech, that game, the batted pass for a touchdown that we talked about earlier in the game.
Yes,
But for whatever
37.
reason, the offense that they have, the way that Tanner Mordecai's thrown 17 touchdowns in 3 games or something like that. It's been incredible. I just think
16 to 2 interceptions.
I just think they're too much for TCU. I really do. I saw earlier this week where Patterson, their coach for TCU, was talking about how he's telling the boosters, like, we need to get out there and basically open up your pocketbooks and let's start paying what we got to pay to get these guys in here.
Yeah.
That's not exactly what he said, but it was along those lines. Like, hey, we need to start paying these kids. I think TCU is maybe mid-level Big 12 this year, not a contender. I think SMU's offense is just way too powerful. 10 points is way too big. TCU might sneak out with a win, but it might be at like a 3-point, 6-point. It's not going to be over 10. So I'm going to take SMU in the points in this one.
Yeah, TCU's coming off of a bye week. That's the only thing that really gives me pause here because SMU, with Tanner Mordecai could have gone to a number of Power 5 schools. He's from Texas, so I think he just, go back home, closer to home, go somewhere where I know I can probably start. Because there was a lot of places he could have gone and earned that number one QB1, basically. The last game TCU played, it was at home against Cal. They won 34-32. So they were tested, but they've had now 2 weeks worth, or they will have 2 weeks worth of practice and film. They would have had some days off, I'm sure, to really kind of rest and recoup and then just watch film, and work out those kinks. So, but 10.5 just looks like a lot. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, I don't know about that. I mean, SMU, they have what they need to score some points.
Yeah, and something else that I think is a little bit of a factor, not maybe for the players, but, we now have the Big 12 expansion, and the 4 teams we know are coming, and there's been rumors that Big 12 may expand even further beyond that. So then you start thinking about, okay, well, what teams would we add that gives us value?
Yeah.
SMU brings you the Dallas market. Now, Dallas has a lot of pro teams, the Cowboys. How much do people pay attention to SMU? I don't know, but it does bring you that market, and it's the same argument for why Rutgers is in the Big Ten, because it brought the New York market. Dallas is the 5th largest media market, so it would make sense. So in a way, all I'm saying is that maybe the powers that be that put some pressure, the pressure comes from above. It's like an audition. Yeah. If you can go out there and beat TCU and beat them good, it's like, hey, we're good enough to play in the Big 12.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that plays a little. Players don't care about that, but those above do.
Yeah.
And so I just think that there's more incentive for SMU to win this game than there is for TCU.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to take SMU in this to keep it closer than 10.5.
All right. Next game, Oregon State is at USC. USC in a 12.5-point favorite. USC gets a great win against Washington State after firing Clay Helton. You kind of wonder what the dynamic is in that locker room now with him gone.
Yeah.
Are they glad he's gone secretively? Are they not? Did it bring them closer together? I don't really know. One thing I do know is that Oregon State is that team that is usually at the bottom of the Pac-12, but can jump up and beat anybody almost any week.
Yeah.
USC's at home. The obvious pick here would be USC to cover 12.5. They played really good last week. I just have a feeling Oregon State's going to come in there and just kind of surprise them a little bit. Not beat them, but I think keep that game maybe close. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I'll take Oregon State. I'm going to take Oregon State in the points in this one.
I'm going to take USC. USC gets to come home after beating Washington State very handily. Their last time at home, they lost to Stanford. Getting that win on the road, then coming back, kind of helping the team, be in close quarters, whether it be on a bus, a plane, hotel, really helps team camaraderie, really helps teams kind of grow whenever you travel and you're, close together. And I just don't see Oregon State. I know they've scored a lot of points, but they played Idaho, they played Hawaii, and then they lost to Purdue 30-21. I do think that USC is better than Purdue. I know that was the first game of the season, but I think USC is going to want to come back home and really make a statement this week
so
for their fans. USC. Yeah.
Okay. Georgia's a 32.5-point favorite against Vanderbilt. Georgia last week was a 31-point favorite against South Carolina. We picked South Carolina, and there for a while in the first half, it was kind of close, and I was like, hey, this might be a pick, and then Georgia opens it up. Yeah. So I'll tell you what, South Carolina's a heck of a lot better than Vanderbilt. So 32.5, I think Georgia, even on the road, I just think they cover that easily.
It's already moved 1.5 points since we locked it in. I'm going to take Georgia. Yeah. I think
Vanderbilt might not score because Georgia's got the best defense in college football.
Yeah. Is JT Daniels going to be back?
He played last week. So they started with Stetson Bennett. Bennett threw an interception, and then they switched to Daniels, and they went on a roll. So I guess it's JT Daniels. That's the only thing I don't like about Georgia going forward. As far as like if we look long term, like playoffs or national championship, the only thing I don't like about Georgia is they haven't locked in on a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because JT Daniels gets hurt, Stetson Bennett comes in, plays a good game, then they just stick with him. Georgia, I mean, when you're thinking national championship, you're thinking playoffs. Man, you got to pick one and go with it.
Yeah.
And you got to stick with that quarterback. I mean, and they haven't done that, and that is concerning for me going forward because that's going to bite them in the butt coming up.
Yeah.
So, but it won't this week because Vanderbilt is. I mean, I look for a goose egg on the scoreboard.
Yeah, they may. I mean, Vanderbilt will be lucky to score a point. They're 1-2 on the season. They lost to Stanford, Vanderbilt. That is. They did beat Colorado State, and then they lost to who is that? Eastern Tennessee State.
East Tennessee State.
Yeah. Yeah, and all Georgia's done is beat Clemson. They beat UAB. They beat South Carolina very handily. So, yeah, Georgia all day on that one.
Yep. Notre Dame is at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 6-point favorite. This one should be a great game. I'll be honest with you. I picked Purdue last week over Notre Dame. For a while, I thought that Purdue was at least going to cover those points.
Mm-hmm.
I watched most of that game. I was kind of flipping back and forth between that and Cincinnati and stuff. But I'll tell you what. I think Notre Dame was kind of lucky this past week. And I kind of feel like their luck runs out because I think Wisconsin is just a much better team, and they're playing at Wisconsin. I'm going to take Wisconsin to cover the 6 and beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, Wisconsin's only played 2 games. They're 1-1. Their only loss was to Penn State 16-10. And then they beat Eastern Michigan 34-7. And then Notre Dame is perfect on the year. They beat Florida State in that overtime game week 1. They beat Toledo 32-29, and they beat Purdue 27-13. One thing that really stuck out to me is that Wisconsin, Ches Malusi for Wisconsin, running back. He's got 51 carries for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2 games.
Yeah.
That's over 130 yards a game.
And they have that I think he's a true freshman running back who can come in if anything were to happen. Berger, I think is his name.
Yeah.
And hey, the storyline with this one, Jack Cohn transferred from Wisconsin to Notre Dame to become quarterback. He's coming back to Wisconsin. I guarantee you the defensive side of the ball, Wisconsin's going to want to get to him.
Oh, it's going to be, the fans are going to go nuts. Yeah. It's going to be a crazy game. Yeah. And if you're looking at this one, Wisconsin's, they're favored. They're number 18, and Notre Dame is number 12. Right now, still, polls don't matter.
They don't.
I mean, they really don't. You're going off the opinion of a lot of people. A lot of those people just look at scores and see who won, and how much. Mm-hmm. And so, especially the coaches poll. I don't ever look at the coaches poll when looking at stuff because most coaches don't even know how to, or don't know. They don't have the time to watch these games.
I mean, even like when we went to the OU Western Carolina game.
Yeah.
When you go to a game, now they're coaching a game. When you just go to a game, I mean, that game was at night or evening.
Yeah.
I got to watch Ohio State, and then we went and watched that, and that was about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to watch highlights and things like that, but now if you're a coach, your game is the only game you're seeing.
Right.
You're not watching other games. And, the Ohio State game was a perfect example against Tulsa.
Yeah.
If you did not watch that game and you just looked at the score and the box score
You'd think
and the
they
stats,
blew them out.
Then you're like, oh, Ohio State doing what they're supposed to do. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
And so you're right. The coaches poll is probably the worst poll to look at of any poll out there.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So anyway, where are we? Notre Dame, Wisconsin. Man, Notre Dame's allowing 148 yards on the ground per game. Wisconsin's only allowing 33, but look at who Wisconsin's played. They played Penn State, and that's only 2 games. So you really, they did only allow 50-something to Penn State, so that's pretty good. Yeah. Notre Dame, man, I just don't know. They haven't just blown off the screen.
Yeah, every game's been close. They're kind of playing to their opponent's level is
Yeah.
the best way to describe Notre Dame right now.
Yeah, it's at Wisconsin. I'm going to take Wisconsin. I was originally going to take Notre Dame, but, Wisconsin just their ground game is incredible. They usually have a really good defense, and I'll take Wisconsin.
Okay, LSU is a 4-point favorite against Mississippi State. Mississippi State kind of in control of that game against Memphis until there at the end, and then man, the light switch just all the mistakes happened. LSU has not been very good this year, losing to UCLA. Mississippi State's not wearing sissy blue, but they might be wearing.
Yeah.
They got the cowbells going. They got all that going on. And I think they're going to be fired up. It's always great if you can beat LSU. And I think Mississippi State might pull out the win here. So with LSU being the favorite, I got to take Mississippi State.
Yeah, Will Rogers in about 2 years will probably throw for like 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
He's a sophomore right now, quarterback for Mississippi State. And usually for Mike Leach, it's, a fifth-year quarterback or fifth-year senior at quarterback that takes over and just throws for gaudy numbers. I mean, right now, into 3 games, he's thrown for 1,083 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 interception. Now, although Max Johnson for LSU has thrown for 863 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. So that's not bad. You would like to see LSU do a little bit better. Losing to UCLA wasn't that great, and then Mississippi State losing to Memphis this last week. I kind of called that, but the cowbells at that stadium are the most annoying thing.
Yes, I can't even stand to watch Mississippi State home game on TV because you hear it nonstop.
They're easily number 1, and then the paddle people for Oklahoma State
are
number 2.
Yes.
So
yeah, you leave both games with a headache.
It gets under your skin. So with that said, I will take. Oh, man. I think maybe Mississippi State pulls this one out.
Yeah.
I'm going to take them.
Okay, next game, Texas Tech against Texas. Texas, an 11-point favorite. Texas ended up beating Rice 56 or 58-0. That game was on Longhorn Network. I don't have a Longhorn Network, so didn't get to see any of that. I don't think it mattered. Texas Tech.
Don't let him get away with not admitting that he chose Rice to cover, didn't you?
No, I took Texas.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
I thought you took Texas.
No, I took Texas to cover.
Rice.
No, I did not take Rice.
Was it the game before? I could have sworn you took Rice.
No, I took Louisiana.
So did I.
Yeah, but no, I took Texas to cover.
I thought you took Rice because I remember thinking, man, what are you doing, Mike?
It's one of my 7 right games that I picked.
Okay.
So you're not taking one away from me.
All right.
Had a horrible week.
Okay. Man, see, I haven't watched a down of Texas Tech.
I haven't either. I'll be honest, I haven't. So, but this game's always ends up being intriguing and close when it probably shouldn't be.
Yeah.
But is Texas? Have they turned the corner? Are they since Arkansas, or is it back to struggling again? Because they played well against Louisiana, then they got just destroyed by Arkansas. They go out and destroy Rice. Now what happens? And I don't know. I just feel like it might be a close game, but.
Can I take both? Can I pick both here?
I'm just going to go ahead and because Texas is at home, I'm going to go ahead and reluctantly pick Texas to cover.
Yeah, I'll take Texas.
Yeah.
Oh man.
But if this ends up a close game or I get this wrong, I won't be surprised because it's just hard to tell right now.
Yeah, I'll take Texas.
Okay. Clemson is a 12-point favorite against NC State. Clemson probably won't even score 12 points, so I'm taking NC State.
Taking NC State.
I mean, Clemson's offense is really bad right now. Really bad. So I don't know if they can score 12 points. And I don't know if they can win the game 12-0. So, and I think NC State definitely puts up something. I mean, they're not as bad as Georgia Tech. So, I don't know.
Clemson put 49 on South Carolina State.
Okay, well, that's a little different. It's at NC State. They'll be fired up to beat Clemson.
NC State has they played USF, beat them 45-0. Lost to Mississippi State 24-10, and then they beat They beat Furman 45-7. So, again, they're really haven't. I mean, Mississippi State was the toughest they've played.
Yeah.
They're scoring.
And Clemson's defense is really good. So let's be honest about that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not like I'm saying NC State's going to go out there and score 25 or 30 points. They might only score 10. But if Clemson can't score more, I mean, then Clemson's got to score 22 or more to cover that.
Yeah.
And I can't see Clemson scoring in the 20s right now. I mean, the way they are.
Yeah.
To me, this is my no-brainer pick.
Okay.
This is my lock.
If I went against OU for their problems, I got to go against Clemson for theirs. I just don't know how good of a team NC State is. They can surprise from time to time.
Yeah.
They could outright win the game.
Yeah.
You just never know with them. So I'll take NC State.
Okay. Texas A&M is a 6-point favorite at Arkansas. Give me the Razorbacks because I think they outright win the game at home.
Yeah.
They are on a roll.
Haynes King is out for that was the quarterback that I was thinking earlier in the show.
Yeah.
Haynes King, I think, is out for 6 to 7 weeks.
Which it didn't hurt him last week, but still. I mean, I don't know. Arkansas's got that magic going on this year.
They're just on a roll.
Now they're not going to win the SEC, and that Cinderella season's going to come crashing down at some point, but it's not yet. I mean, they got things going, rocking and rolling.
Well, this is one of their tests. I mean, this is Texas A&M's one of the teams they got to get through to get there. So it's them and Alabama. So you get this win here, and then you're sitting at tied for first in your division.
And then all you got to worry about is Alabama, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Sam Pittman is getting Arkansas on the right track.
Yeah, he is, absolutely.
I don't know if he'll get them to win, SEC at all, but
you Arkansas fans, you're not going to get me doing one of those pig suey squeals. Like, I'm not doing that.
No.
So, but I will take your team this week.
I grew up going to Little Rock all the time, and I still don't. I still don't woo pig. I mean, maybe I did as a kid just because it was fun, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to go?
I grew up. Yeah,
Arkansas.
All right.
Next game, Rutgers at Michigan. Michigan, 18.5-point favorite. I admit, horrible pick last week, thinking Illinois would stick with Michigan. They didn't. Michigan, I'll tell you what, they got the best running game in the nation. They really do. They got it going on up there. They still can't throw the ball to save their life, but they can run the ball. Rutgers, though, might be the big surprise in the Big Ten this year.
Yeah.
I mean, what Greg Schiano is doing there in New Jersey is impressive. Mm-hmm. This is really their first real big test, but I'll tell you what, Rutgers has been getting it done so far, and I like Rutgers to keep this one close, so I'll take Rutgers in the points.
Yeah, 18.5. I liked Rutgers a few weeks ago. Who'd they play? Was it Indiana?
They're undefeated. I have to look it up.
I picked them.
I think they beat Syracuse.
Syracuse or Temple. I picked them 1 week there. And I know Michigan's rolling, but look, they played Washington, NIU, and Western Michigan.
Yeah.
They haven't been tested at all. This will be their first real test. Same thing kind of goes with Rutgers. They played Delaware, Syracuse, and Temple.
Yeah.
So really,
this for Rutgers is: are you a contender or are you a pretender?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a Big Ten East matchup, and Rutgers, if you want to win, if you want to be competitive, if you ultimately want to try to win the Big Ten East, this is one of them you have to win. I mean, and Greg Schiano knows that, and since he took over, has gotten an influx of transfers as well. He's benefited just like Michigan State. So
how is this possible? 186 total yards of offense. They have to have those switched. That's not right.
Against
yards passing 96 per game.
Average. That's the average.
Right, but look at the points. 41 points.
Yeah. I mean,
that can't be right. Please tell me, Rutgers fans, you're not passing for 96 yards a game and running for 90 a game. That doesn't look like it makes sense when you're scoring 61 against Temple, 45 against Delaware. 17 against
unless their
Syracuse.
Defense is getting the ball and giving them short field yardage.
Maybe, because they're only giving up 10.5 yards a game, or 10.5 points a game. That looks very weird to me. But anyway, I like Rutgers to keep it close here because I think this will be a good test against Michigan.
Yeah.
Greg Schiano's getting that team to be tougher.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same thing as Arkansas right now.
Yep.
The same thing Sam Pittman is doing for Arkansas, Greg Schiano's doing for Rutgers. So I like them to give Michigan a game here.
I do too, because I'll tell you what, if Rutgers was playing Ohio State next week, I would probably take Rutgers, and if there's any time where Rutgers could make a run in the Big Ten, it would be this year with what's going on.
Yeah, I know this is at the big house and everything, but 18.5 just looks like too much on a team that's building to be, something good.
Yep. Okay. UCLA, a 4-point favorite at Stanford. I have to take Stanford in this. After their first week loss to Kansas State, Stanford they turned on the light switch or something happened after that first week. They're playing really good. They beat USC at, I forget where that was at a few weeks ago.
I think it was at USC. Because remember, that was the last home
when Clay
game
Helton got fired.
USC,
yes.
That was the last home game USC played.
Yep.
So, yeah, Stanford won it.
And UCLA coming off that loss to Fresno State. I don't know what it is with Stanford, but I think they've figured something out, and they're going to make a run here. And so could end up being Stanford, Oregon for the Pac-12 maybe at the end of the year. So
it's at Stanford Stadium.
Yeah.
I'm going to take UCLA.
Okay.
I just think they ironed some things out this week.
Okay, so we're opposite of that one. I got Stanford. Tennessee is at Florida. Florida is a 19.5-point favorite. I like Tennessee in the points in this one. I was impressed with how Florida kept it with Alabama. Florida's offense, Alabama had no answer for them in the second half. I mean, they could not stop Florida at all. I think Florida obviously beats Tennessee, but Tennessee's been playing a lot better this year. They have talent. They have SEC recruits and things like that.
They're scoring points.
They're scoring points. So can they keep
lost
it together?
To Pitt, who just got beat.
That's true. They did. But I don't know. I like Tennessee to be able to keep it within 20. So I like Tennessee in this one.
Man, this is tough. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in Emory Jones.
True.
I know he's very fast.
Yep. And you look at Florida, possible letdown after this high adrenaline game against Alabama, where you just come up just a little bit short. So
yeah, but is it a letdown, or is it we almost beat Alabama? We almost beat the number one team in the country at home. We're better than we give ourselves credit for. So I don't know, man. This one's at Gainesville again. I don't know in this one. That's just a big spread. I mean, it's a big spread for the first.
Right.
And I know people are going to be shaking their screens right now saying it's Tennessee.
Yeah, but prior to the Alabama game, Florida was not covering either.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to cover. So I think they just came out fired up, ready to play against Alabama. But prior to Alabama, they weren't really ready. They had been struggling. So they possibly have a letdown. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'll take Tennessee to keep it close. Maybe not even close. I mean,
but within 20.
Within 20, yeah.
Florida wins by 17, and Tennessee still covers. So.
Right.
Arizona is at Oregon. Oregon is a 27.5-point favorite. I really don't like these big spreads. I hate taking teams to cover huge spreads. But Arizona's bad. Yeah. They're bad. I mean, they're a bad football team. I'm going to take Oregon's at home. I'm going to take Oregon to cover the 27.5.
Yeah.
They're the number 3 team in the country now as far as the AP is concerned. This is just one of those games where if you want to stay up there, you want to stay up in the rankings, and you want to be a playoff team, these games, you got to go out and win big. Yeah. You just have to. You have to look impressive. I mean, that's what the playoff committee is going to be looking at. So I think Oregon has to cover this. Yeah,
C.J. Friedell's kind of breaking out a little bit.
Yeah.
289 yards, almost 100 yards a game on 49 carries. That's really, really good. 3 touchdowns.
And he had a huge game against Ohio State.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I've got Oregon to cover here. I think that Arizona hasn't won a game, and they're not just getting beat; they're getting comfortably beat. I mean, they got beat by Northern Arizona, 21-19. San Diego State, they beat them 38-14, and then BYU beat them 24-16. And then all Oregon has done is win every game that they've played, including Ohio State, who has issues. I mean, they can beat themselves.
And they struggled in week 1 with Fresno State, but now we know Fresno State's for real.
Yeah.
They're a really good football team.
Yeah, it's in Eugene, so, I mean, give me the Ducks.
Okay, last one. Threw this one in there. South Carolina against Kentucky. Kentucky, a 4.5-point favorite. Got to give Kentucky some love. They're having a really good season right now, kind of sneaking up there. And I like Kentucky to cover. I really do.
Yeah, I'm taking Kentucky as well.
I think they continue. They're undefeated right now, right? So they're looking to
move. They're 3-0. Yeah.
3-0. So they're looking to go 4-0. And just because of how good they're doing, that's why I threw this one in as our last game pick. So we both have Kentucky, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's it for our picks for week 4 for college football. Hey, we are glad to have you. Please subscribe if you haven't subscried. Hit that like button or smash it, whatever you got to do. And always leave your comments so we can get to you and respond.
Off on it.
Yeah. Tackle it, whatever. Sack it.
Bullseye. I hate yours.
All right. But you can also check us out on Twitter, Instagram. But that's all I got. You got anything else?
Bye, John.
All right. Hey, thank you all.
There's got to be a John watching.
There's got to be somebody. And I want to give a shout out to Mina. I think she comments every week doing her picks, and she is right most of the time. So, hey, congratulations on your picks. Please keep the comments coming. And I'm going to try to do more shout outs starting next week. I was going to do it this week, and I forgot to write them down. So,
cool.
Yep. All right, that's all we have. We'll see you next week. Take care.